welcome back to my channel. It's Jasmine and I'm back with another video. So today's video, I'm going to give you the full kitchen makeover from top to bottom. I have been giving you like piece by piece of how I made over this kitchen. So if you're interested in any of these DIY projects, I'll have all the videos linked in the description box, like for the detailed makeovers, but I'm going to share with you just top to bottom how I did this makeover. I love the way that it turned out. I love the way everything came together. And these projects take about 6 weeks-ish to do. So it takes me about a week to do a DIY project and to edit the video and then still do my regular life stuff as well, like my work and other things outside of YouTube. So overall, I think this project took me about 6 weeks to get everything done. So I'm gonna share with you the budget and the breakdown of just like how this whole project went. And so I'm excited to jump into this video. I want to take you guys along on how I plan these projects from top to bottom. Someone had expressed in the comments that it would be interesting to hear about the budget and just like the logistics of the project, and so I'm going to incorporate that in this video. Something that I do at first, which may surprise you and it may not, is I just stare at the room. To be honest with you, I just look at the room before I start a project and I just literally stare at the room for a while until I come up with some ideas. There's some things that I like start to come up with, but then I really just stare at the room to see like how they would all come together. If I change something to be darker, then where would I need to incorporate something lighter to balance it? Things like that. The first thing that I did when I was staring at this room was really just take note of the goals that I have for this space. And I think that that's a thing that anyone can incorporate in any of their spaces, is really to take note of, instead of focusing on like how I want to change the design, like really what are the things that this room is needing? What are the things that it's missing? What are the things that I need to accomplish in this room? More so from like a functionality standpoint. And then once I know from the functionality standpoint what I'm needing, I'm able to dive into more of the design side of things. So the goals that I had for this space in particular would be to swap out the island. The top of the island was stained, so I knew that I needed to fix it. Am I going to swap it out? Am I going to update it with a DIY? Like, how am I going to go about that? I know that I need to change the top of this island, but I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. And then my budget kind of helps me define what things I can do and what things I can't do. Ideally, if I had a huge budget, maybe I could swap out the island completely and get an island that I really, really love. But because of my budget, that gives me a constraint and a limitation. And so then it forces me to really look at this project and think like, how can I achieve this with the amount of money that I have? So another goal in this space for me was to fix the wallpaper that was falling off. There was corners that were coming down on this wallpaper, so I knew I had to get rid of it. And that wasn't really a question in my mind. It was like, I knew this needs to go. So then I'm thinking of my budget and I'm considering what can I afford to do with this amount of money that I have. And here's some supplies that I already have. And so what can I achieve in this space within this budget? I knew I wanted to fix the wall shelves because they were kind of loose and falling off. And so I knew I needed to get some new wall brackets because that was essential. The wall brackets that were there, I knew they weren't sturdy enough to hold the things that I wanted to put on these shelves. Another thing that I wanted to change in this kitchen was the countertops. I knew that the countertops would no longer go with the kitchen the way that I was thinking of changing it, the way that I had planned it in my mind. And so I knew I wanted to save some money to changing the countertops. Overall, knowing that these are some of the things that I wanted to change, I kept that in mind as I'm looking at my inspo to think through like what are the ways that I would want to change them. And so the amount of money that I had really was just not even that I had a certain amount in my mind. So I'm just going to tell you how much I actually spent, because I was really going at this like, what can I do with what I already have, and really spend close to nothing. There are certain pieces that I know I need to buy, and so I wanted to focus all of my finances towards those. I needed to buy some stools for this space because I had no counter stools. And so that was something that I knew I would need to buy. And I knew it was going to be around $200 to $300. So I wanted to focus all of my budget for this space on the stools. The rest of my budget, I would say I just was like, if I really need something, I'll get it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to spend extra money on things that I don't need. Once I had established most of the things that I wanted to get done in this space, I went to look at my inspo board. So this is huge because sometimes it's easy to get distracted in creating design. And one of the things that I see is one of my struggles, but also one of my struggles with working with clients, is that we like a wide variety of things and we like a lot of styles, and sometimes those styles don't always blend together, at least the way the items that we're picking from those styles don't necessarily blend together. So it's always really great to keep looking back at what you have and keep looking back at the design inspiration that you have so that you can keep your design cohesive. Went through my inspo board and I was just kind of looking through common themes. So there's a lot of different things going on in my inspo, but the common theme was I wanted it to be earthy and organic, and I kept seeing these lime wash walls that I really loved because it added texture to the wall without really requiring much. I knew that I kind of wanted to go a little bit darker than I'm used to. I'm used to having things very light and airy, which I still love and I think is beautiful, but I think I just wanted a change and to kind of switch up my style. So with all of that in mind, I knew I wanted to go a little bit darker on the wood stain. That was something that was really driving this design, and I knew I wanted to add this element of lime wash walls. So let's jump into how I started. So the first thing I do, as always, is I clear out the space. I make sure that the room is ready to be painted or do whatever thing that I'm gonna do. So I removed the shelves from the walls, and then I started to remove this wallpaper that was up. Next thing I did was the lime wash paint. I'm so excited with lime wash paint. I don't know what it is. I'm obsessed with it. I want to do this entire apartment in lime wash paint. I just think it looks so amazing, and it keeps the minimalist vibe and adding texture and this visual interest to the walls without really needing much. Like, I don't need a lot of art. I don't need a lot of things going on the walls. Like, this lime wash paint adds that element of design and makes it look really just unique. As far as the lime wash, I spent nothing. We already had this paint and this primer, and I already had the tools to patch up the holes in the wall. So for this part of the makeover, I spent $0. Next thing I did was to DIY these wall shelves. They were still in good condition, so I wanted to reuse the wood. I wanted to make them just look a little bit refreshed. They were just kind of getting old and turning yellow because that's something that happens with common board if you don't stain it. Just super simple, easiest DIY you can do. You can literally go down to Home Depot and ask them to cut some wood for you into whatever dimensions you need. I think these were 6 inches wide on one and 8 inches wide on the other. But these are just regular common board. I sanded them down because they were kind of worn out, and then I stained them with a special walnut. I've been using special walnut because I already had it, and it's just a great color. It's very universal. It feels like a little bit more on the darker side, which I enjoyed for this space, and it was just a perfect color. I really did want to go a little bit darker, but because I already had this stain, that's really what moved me to use this color stain on these shelves. But I definitely feel like these still work for the space, and they were perfect. And then I just put them back up. So much design to this room. I think they're just the first thing that you see when you walk in that catches your eye, and that's really what I wanted for this kitchen, was to have this like eye-catching moment when you walk in that feels really well designed. Even though I'm living in this converted garage, it doesn't feel like it when you walk in here. It just feels so well done. The only thing that I had to purchase when doing these wall shelves was the brackets. next part of the makeover, I was actually not expecting to do. I kind of just fell into it. I was like one day just looking under the sink as I'm like amidst this makeover, and I just like saw how disorganized it was and how messy it was, and I was like, I don't want to just leave this like this. So I was like, well, let me go get some things that can help me organize. So once I went to Hobby Lobby and I saw all the cute things for organizing, I was like, well, let me just do this thing once and for all. So I've been wanting to get the amber glass bottles for my sprays and like do the cute label thing, and so I was on this whole mission to reorganize the kitchen. So I redid under the sink with all of my cleaning supplies, and then I also redid inside of my cabinet with all of my spices, putting them into new spice jars and just redoing the whole thing. And then while I was in the midst of this, I was just like, I think I need another cabinet that could really hold all of my appliances so they're not just like spread everywhere and looking messy. So then I went to Facebook Marketplace and I found this incredible deal, and it was just the most perfect cabinet that fit so well in this room. And so I got this cabinet for $40. So I had some bulky things that probably could be in a drawer, but since I don't have drawer space, I got this metal wall rack. And then I also just added this little peg rack that I had for an element of design. Overall, I would say that this is where I spent the most amount of money on this makeover, because I got the cabinet for $40, and I believe everything that I spent at Hobby Lobby was about $70. So for the total that I spent on the organization stuff for this part of the makeover was about $180, and I will put the breakdown here on the screen. Shelf decor is one of my favorite things to thrift, and actually it's one of my favorite things to find anywhere. I just think vases and vessels are just so cute, and I just love the way that the texture is and all the different ones you can find. Like, it's probably my favorite thing to find. So I went to the thrift store and I found a bunch of items. I believe I spent about $30-ish on these items, but then I did go to the thrift store again later and probably spent roughly about the same. So I spent like $60. I don't have all of them up in this video, so I don't know if I would calculate that, but just for the sake of the budget, I'm gonna say that we spent $60 on thrifted items. So the next phase of this makeover is the island and the countertops. Finally, it feels like it took forever to get to this. Since I moved in here, this is something that had really bothered me, was like this island just having all the stains on it. So it was the most satisfying part to get this done. And so the first thing I did was haul this huge island outside so that I could sand it down. After I gave it a good sand, I whitewashed it because there was some yellowing going on. So I just wanted to make sure that it was minimal before I stained it. And then I just reused the same stain that I'd used on the shelves, which is the special walnut, because I already had it on hand, the least expensive option to do it that way. And then after I stained it, I put 2 clear coats on top. In the midst of while I was doing that, I also painted the bottom black because I had some black paint on hand. I still, when I look at the bottom, I feel like I still want to change it up. I still want to do something different, but for now, working with the budget that I had, I wanted to make sure that I was keeping this super budget friendly. And so the total cost that I spent on this island was $0. Since I was changing up the island and the wood stain of the shelves, I wanted to make sure that the countertops, at least the countertop by the sink, which was previously like this light wood color, wouldn't look so bad. And I just feel like because it was already like kind of falling apart, it didn't look the way that I wanted it to. I'm fine with mixing different tones of woods, but I think with this, it just was kind of an eyesore for me. So I wanted to cover it with some contact paper. I still have mixed feelings now that I've done it about contact paper, but I want to show you how this turned out. Putting this black marble contact paper on was the move, but also was such a struggle for me to put on. I don't know if it's because I haven't worked with a lot of contact paper or because there was so many like little edges and ridges around the sink that it made it really difficult. Like after both of these things were done, the island and the countertops, this kitchen feels a lot more cohesive and put together. In total for the island and the countertop update, I spent $13. And this is the final part of our kitchen makeover. You guys, this stool part needed its own section of the video because These stools were driving me crazy. I had looked for stools for like, I feel like since I got here, I've been kind of like browsing stools since I moved in here almost like a year ago. And I just haven't quite landed on anything that I really love that's within my price range. So I've been just kind of keeping an eye out, and I just haven't really come across anything. So I feel like now that I'm finally doing this makeover, I was like, well, it's time to choose something. I finally landed on some Amazon stools, which were, I thought, pretty cute, and I thought they would look great in here. And so I ordered them, I pulled the trigger, and then when they got here, they were just not what I was expecting. They came damaged, first of all, so there was broken parts or like damaged parts on the stool, and then they were missing bolts. And then on top of that, when I put them together, they felt a little bit too bulky for the space. Because my space is so small, it was like creating too much of a barrier between the kitchen and the living room, where there needs to be more of a seamless flow just because it's so small. So I ended up just returning them, and I had valid reason obviously because they were broken, but I didn't want to reorder them and replace them with the same ones. So I just took that as a sign that I should look for something else. So I hopped back on Facebook Marketplace, which I searched for months. And these same stools keep popping up. They're very common. Everyone's selling them everywhere, you know, and so I just kind of was deciding like what color I wanted, because there's like a dark wood one, there's like a light wood one, and then there's like black ones. So I ended up landing on the light wood stools, and I like them, but I don't want to say that I love them or think that they're amazing in any way. I just think they're very basic and they work, but I don't feel like they're like my stools, you know what I mean? So I'll probably still keep an eye out. If I find something a little bit better, I will probably upgrade them and switch them out at a later time. But for now, these are the stools that I have, and I spent $70. Let me know what you guys think about this, like the light wood option with the dark kitchen. The reason why I leaned into the light wood for these stools was because I felt like the kitchen was looking really dark, and I wanted to kind of offset it and break it up a little bit, especially at the bottom of the island table where it's black and it just was like a dark wood and then a black. So I felt like if I got another dark wood, it would just look too dark, like it all blends in together. And then I was thinking of doing like a boucle white fabric, but that felt like it was too stark against the dark. So I don't know, I'm still playing with it. Maybe one day I'll get some sort of wicker or something like that, but we'll see. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the stools.
And here's the total cost breakdown for this project.
Anyway, it's about that time where we can take a look at the befores and take a look at the afters. me so much. I cannot tell you. I did not feel like this was my home. I kind of felt like, you know when you're just walking around, you're like, this isn't my style, like this isn't my vibe, you know? And that's kind of how I felt. I feel like it was cute, but it just wasn't me, like, you know? So anyway, I'm loving it. I'm loving the change, and I'm excited to keep kind of switching it up. I feel like my spaces are never quite like done. I feel like I'm always going to be like adding to and switching it up. So I'm excited for that. And speaking of spaces, I'm going to be doing my bedroom or my living room next, and I'm not quite sure which one. Let me know which one you're most interested in seeing next, because I'm curious to know. But anyway, I love you guys. Let me know what you thought about this makeover down in the comments, and I can't wait to chat with you guys this week. As always, keep spreading the love and light, and I will catch you on the next one.
We bring it back to life, taking it to brand new heights. Ashes get beautified, stop by and check.